Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Toby and this is Lightworks. So today I want to try and recreate a scene from a bit of an inspiration of mine online, Blender Guru. I stumbled across his channel really recently. I was looking through some Google reference photos, just in images, and came across this subway photo. And it's really lifelike and the video is great. I just tried to go straight into recreating. And what I found was a subway is a really good scene to try and sort of hone your skills because there's some interesting things happening with light and with textures. It's not that big, so it's kind of easy to recreate. So I'm going to bring up the reference photo and let's get into it. Okay, so you can see straight away that there's a lot of blue and greenish kind of hue going on. So I'm going to try and recreate some of that stuff from the materials that I'm using. So straight off the bat, I'm going to make sure that my materials are coloured in a similar light. I'm obviously also going to use lighting to help create that kind of bluish, kind of horror hue that's going on. So I'm just making sure that I'm picking the right material for this. I'm going to start with the stairs here and make sure that I've got a kind of similar-ish hue to what's going on in the photo. There's a blue going on down here. It's kind of this dark grey blue. Something else to note about this scene is that I'm not trying to really recreate a game or a film or anything too complicated. It's just this scene. So I can afford to have my detailing quite high and some of the kind of resolutions quite high. And so in order to do that, I'm just going to make sure that my sculpture detail is kind of as high as it can be. This is going to increase the flex and it's going to allow me to have these kind of crisp edges that are what I'm after, because that's what's going on in the photo. Okay, so I'm now just making my wall. I kind of want to get this ceramic porcelain feel. These tiles are presumably ceramic, like you'd get in a subway. Blender Guru's done an amazing job here, and there are some reflections that are quite difficult to get in Dreams that you're not going to get from the materials. If you wanted to recreate those, you'd have to build a kind of transparent wall and have those scenes kind of existing behind it. We're not going to do that today. I'm just going to go with trying to get my material shiny enough to kind of get a feel that's similar-ish. As you can see here, I'm just noodling with the materials. This can have quite a big effect on the colour of your scene, because ultimately the kind of shininess and roughness or metallic nature of your sculptures will affect the way that light bounces off it, and that has a big impact on the colour of your overall scene. Next up, I'm just going to try and build the grooves into the wall. Now, with this scene, there are a bunch of tiles going on. Instead of making every tile unique, what I'm doing is taking a single sculpture and cutting out negative cylinders that reach the whole way along the wall, and that way it's just going to give me a kind of black groove. As long as you make sure that the colour of the negative shape that you're making is black, or whatever colour you want it to be, it will kind of chip into your sculpture in that colour and in that material also. So what I'm doing is just creating what I want to be a constant groove. I'm going to replicate that and I'm going to put it horizontal as well, and that's going to give me this effect of tiles along a wall. With a little bit of copy and paste and tweaking the materials, I'm starting to build up my scene. Now, this is where I'm going to start to look at the ceiling. There's a kind of pebble dash situation going on. So my ceiling at the moment is just a copied wall and pasted across the top, and I've reversed the tiles over, so I've just got a clean slate. But now I need to make the pebbles for the pebble dash. So those are just going to be spheres that I'm going to elongate. They're pretty much a uniform colour as with most pebble dash. Pebble dash is kind of gross, so people just tend to paint it one colour, so to try and give it some texture but not really bother about colour. And I'm just going to start to add these pebbles to my ceiling, and This is done with the smear technique, so I don't have to kind of paste every single one by pressing X or R2. They're just going to be plastered all over. I've got my Pebble Dash ceiling now. I'm just going to copy that across, so I've got a few of the same thing overlapping. Because there's quite a fine detail and repetition going on in the pattern of the pebbles, it doesn't really matter how they cross over. I don't think that you're going to be able to pick up that there's a copy and paste going on there. Okay, now I'm just getting my handrail right by scaling it up against my human. I've made the scene the right scale for a human, so if the handrail suits the guy, it should suit the scene. I spent quite a lot of time here trying to figure out how to get the right metallic effect from the handrail. It's really tricky because in the reference photo there's a lot of sheen coming off, and I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way of doing that in Dreams. It's possible that there isn't, but with playing with the sun and sky gadget and a combination of colours and materials, I get a little bit closer. Now I'm just using the curve tool to bend the handrail back round, so have it going into the wall as is in the photo. This can be a little bit fiddly, so it's important to use the grid when you're trying to line up any kind of curvatures, particularly in this instance where presumably there's a kind of man-made bend going on that's probably at 90 degrees and all of that. Okay, cool, so this is starting to come out now, and with a combination of a few different bumps and curves, we've got the handrails kind of in place. Now I'm gonna just paint some of this marble effect that we can see in the reference photo. I'm going for an amount of soft blend, so there's a kind of blend from my shapes that go into the surface, and I'm just snapping it to the surface, so everything I do is going to make sure that it actually paints the top of the stair. And I think I'm getting a little bit closer to what feels like a texture but is actually just a painted flat surface, but it's looking a little bit like the reference photo, which is what we want. Okay, this was a nightmare. I'm trying to figure out how to maintain a white ceramic wall that is reflective. For some reason I had to noodle around for like an hour to figure this out, but what I didn't realise at this point, and this is what gave me such a headache, is that if you have your metallicness, is that a thing? Metalness to the top, it's basically always going to be super dark, like black pretty much. So I had a real mare figuring that out. It took me forever, but once I figured that out, the whole thing kind of started to fit into place. I then had shiny ceramic white tiles that seemed to be kind of similar to my man Blender Guru. So at this point I'm just using a plastic cube to emulate the border that's sort of separating the scene, and I'm getting a cylinder to make the pipe. I hadn't actually watched the Blender Guru video, I'm really sorry about that. I just saw the reference photo and I took it from here. I then watched the video afterwards, and there's so much more detail that's going in, and there are all kinds of really crazy things that Blender Guru goes into at this point. I think he describes the pipe as one of the most complicated parts. Okay, so this is the tiles. Again, didn't watch the video, really sorry. I actually didn't realise, but there's a bit more detail going on in the tile here. I'm just doing what I think I can emulate from the photo. Need to get a kind of yellow surface going on, and there's a few grooves in there as well. So I've just cut out some negative rounded cubes and elongated them to give this kind of traction that you'd get for a tile, for a footwalk or a surface that you walk on. And there you have it. So this is my attempt at emulating Blender Guru's subway scene in just a couple of hours in Dreams. Thanks so much. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. There's going to be much more of this kind of thing coming soon. And in fact, I continue the subway video and I'm turning it into a music video at the moment, so please tune in for that.